Hi guys, it's Jamie here. Thanks to my recent Ko-fi supporters, Gillian, Angel, Christelle, Esther and Michelle, I was able to purchase this rather large art journal, and I'm going to use it to do a few tutorials following Zern's mark making course that's going on currently in Art Tribe. This first tutorial will be open as a thank you to those Ko-fi supporters, past and current, who are helping keeping the channel and tutorials going by leaving some tips in the tip jar. Of course, that's not the only way to support the channel. We do also have our joint Etsy shop, the Art Tribe, which is a small price private membership club to discover all sorts of art, which is a very welcoming and safe space for beginners. There is, of course, as previously mentioned, the Ko-fi tip jar, and a free way to support this channel is to like, share the video, comment on the video, subscribe to the channel, all of which hits the YouTube algorithm. In other words, YouTube see the popularity of a video, so they then put it on to other people's news feeds, and these may be people who aren't in the Junk Journal Cafe, so don't know about these tutorials. All my tutorials are advert free, so I earn no money specifically from YouTube, and yet each video takes me, and I did work this out recently, 12 hours. That's filming and post-production work plus promotional photographs for that post-production work. Okay, I think I've come to the end of the unashamed promoting, pushing, begging for support for the YouTube channel. Any links that you might be interested in will be in the video description, and let's talk about what I've been doing here. Recently in Art Tribe, Barbara was sharing a short video of some of her pages from the mark making course. She was also combining them with the weekly colour challenge, and I particularly liked how she'd created a frame on her art journal pages and then did her work within the frame. I'm not particularly good at being able to do a straight line, even with a ruler and a cutting board measurement guide to follow. So I thought the way I would create my frame would be to score the lines in first and then go back over them as dots, which, if I remember rightly, is how Barbara had created her frame. So no originality there on my part, straightforward copying. Talking about copying, I thought for my very first go at mark making, I would follow Zern's guide, where she created a background from very neutral colours. So here you see me going through my big box of scraps, looking for neutral offcuts from previous projects. I didn't stick to just plain different beiges and earth tones. I did pick out some patterns, some with writing on, and even actual printed papers from old scrapbooking kits. I made sure that I found a variety, not just in what was printed on the papers or the tones of the papers, but also the textures. I managed to find some vellum and tracing paper, style scraps, and also some Amazon packaging, and even some faux leather that I'd made for a previous project. In previous videos, you'll have seen me happily tearing at bits of paper to create jagged edges and even inking those edges. This time I wanted to go for some clean lines, so decided to cut various rectangular and square shapes from the papers, all different sizes. I'm aware that my art journal is quite large and therefore there will be a big area to fill, but I don't want to overcomplicate that area by having too many patterns and different textures going on. I am going to continue doing the voiceover for this video, despite the fact the RAF are having yet another flyover practice run. If I was a conspiracy theorist, I would say they've been up in the sky a lot recently in comparison to the previous 15 years I've lived in this area. I do live near quite a few RAF aircraft bases. And I have never known anything like the recent months, maybe since February, for manoeuvres. So do forgive any sounds of large jets flying over and disturbing the peace. In this part of the video, I'm creating the base using the different pieces of paper or scrap paper that I've chosen, and I'm creating almost a frame within the frame by leaving a small gap while I place them down. I am using my heavy gel matte medium as my glue for this particular project, and you will see that I'm using it not only as a glue but also as a protective layer over the top of the finished scrappy collage. I can't say that I was very conscious about where I was choosing to place some of these scraps. I did know that I wanted the flowers in the top left-hand corner, and I wanted to counterbalance that with something slightly plainer in the opposite diagonal corner. I'm not really having much joy with sound control today. Now my little thermostat controlled heater has kicked in, and it is far too cold to be turning it off, just because that will affect the sound on the video. So I will apologise again. Going back to the collage decision-making process, I actually find it quite hard to describe why I choose to put pieces in certain places. I would simply say through taking up art a year and a half ago and doing almost a daily practice, I've just developed an eye for what I find pleasing in sizes and balance of colours and balance of textures, printed, non-printed. Having not received any kind of formal art education, I gave up art at 14 because I couldn't draw. I don't really have the words to express or show you why I do what I do. What I hope you do get from these videos is that if somebody who struggles to draw matchstick men and women has a go at art on a regular basis, it gives you the confidence to also try some of these projects for yourselves. I am currently breaking up the big background with smaller pieces, trying to balance plain against writing, different shades and also different shapes. Here I'm putting down a vellum-y style piece, which is quite a complex patterning. And here you can see that if I think a piece is slightly too large, I'm cutting it down in situ quite carefully. The stone-coloured piece of handwritten paper that you're seeing in my hand is being placed on a slight diagonal from the beige handwritten paper. By using diagonals and verticals, I'm hoping to break up the overall pattern and create a sense of balance with the plain or textured papers in between. If I see something that looks a little bit too spacey, I'm filling it in with something slightly different, in this case a big word. And there's another piece of vellum, which I think is from a dressmaking pattern that I'm going to cut down to make a small vellum style square, which is a contrasting texture to the faux leather underneath. And you can see that the red border picks up on the red of the flowers above it. Unfortunately, the first few marks that I put onto this background didn't record, therefore I'm repeating the process. Purely from the point of view of this video tutorial, if left to my own devices, I'd have left that particular amount of mark making as it was. However, I wanted to show you what I'd used, which is the back of this plastic paint palette with a layer of black gesso. Black gesso paint dries very, very matte, and I know that Zern was recommending, I think they're called golden fluids, which are quite expensive paints, and she had chosen to use a black for hers. I don't know the consistency of those paints because I've never purchased them. I do know that some of them leave quite an iridescent shine. As somebody whose taste I would describe as glitter goth, i.e. grungy, but also with glitter and shine that would attract a little magpie, I would love to try some of those iridescent paints. To get a bit of glamour into this particular mark making exercise, I have used an offcut from some Indian scrapbooking paper that does have some gold foiling to it. The whole point of mark making is to use different objects that you find, whether that's in nature or your home, and see what effect it makes on your background when you've added some paint to it, and use it to make marks, surprisingly enough. While I'm not overly happy with the paint palette effect, using the wine cork to create some circles is a better look, in my opinion, but I'm still not overly happy with that overall effect, so I decide that I'm going to add some lines. I'm actually pretty geometric in how I like things. My house is quite minimal. I don't really like arches and curves. I like straight edges and lines in design, so I actually end up adding a lot of lines. That's my final piece. I probably made the background slightly too complex for the challenge. That's something I will remember for the second one. Less printed papers, more mark making. I hope you enjoyed this chatty, I wouldn't even call it a tutorial, experiment with me, and I will see you very, very soon. Bye.